Head to the garage and grab a few pieces of scrap wood because we're turning these leftover boards into something super useful for organizing your home. Start by trimming your boards down to size. You'll need one long piece for the top and two shorter pieces for the sides. Give everything a quick sanding before you start assembling to make sure things are nice and smooth. Now line your boards up into a simple U shape, one board across the top and the two shorter boards standing vertically like little legs. Once your project is assembled, add a couple of coats of your favorite paint. I used this pretty blue spray paint that I had left over from a past project. And now for the big reveal, this DIY shelf is about to give you extra storage where you didn't even know you needed it. I don't have a lot of clearance between my stove and microwave, but this just might be a great option for you to keep your cooking space organized if you have the room. In the bathroom, you can set this shelf right over your sink, and just like that, you've added a whole new level to your counter space. Take the same shelf concept to your kitchen and place the shelf over your sink. Now you've got the perfect perch for dish soap, scrub brushes, lotion, even a little plant would work here. This keeps your kitchen sink area tidy and frees up that valuable counter space around it.
I had this messy countertop and I decided to do something about it. So I headed down to my local hardware store and grabbed a 1x5 board. What I wanted to do is measure the board to fit exactly under my cabinet. So I needed to cut two of these. And then I went ahead and measured the second board again to the same height to measure it. And then I got to cut another two pieces that'll fit the length of my countertop. I'm going to build a box, but I also want to make sure instead of using just nails or screws that I use glue. Wood glue is very important. It is very strong and will hold this box together. Once I get one side on, I'm going to go ahead and do the other. Again, make sure the glue is on there. Get it all lined up at a 90-degree angle and put it together. I'm going to do this also with the same on the other side. Also, I need to put a shelf in the middle, and I'm just going to use brad nails to put those together. I also want to make sure I put some railings on. This little 1/4-inch poplar board is going to be perfect for rails. I'm going to put it on the first shelf and on the second. Once I get that nailed into place, I'm going to put some super glue on the back. That way I can put some little magnets on there. They stick instantly and they hold just perfect. That way it sticks to the side of the fridge and it can be removable. But then I also decided that I want to build a second box, and I'm going to take these little scrap pieces of board and I'm going to go ahead and drill a nice 1-inch hole in there, and then I'm going to cut them out, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. Once I use my saw and cut those out, you're going to get a piece that's going to look pretty good, and it's going to look just like this. I need to cut a couple of these, and I'm going to glue them and put them against the second box. These are going to hold some wood dowels for me. When I put those on, I'm going to go and space them evenly, all three of those down the side, and I'm going to do it for the other side. Once I get that all together, it's time to put a railing on, but this one's different. I'm going to put some super glue and take some saw blades right here. I'm going to put the super glue on the top, and the saw blade is going to barely stick over with the cutting edge. Once I get that on there, I'm actually going to turn it around so I don't see the blade and put the railing on two of these next to these two little brackets. They're going to hold the wood dowels. Once I get these on, it's time to go ahead and stain. I'm going to use a stain that's going to just kind of pop with the cabinets and put these two together, these two boxes, in an L shape. Once I get this on, it's time to put it in place. Now I can take all the items that I had on my countertop and in drawers and in cabinets and start putting them on here on this dead space. I can go ahead and stack this as much as I want, and it's going to look actually really nice. Sticking those wood dowels, I'm going to put some aluminum foil, some saran wrap, and some paper towels all in place there. Now, watch this. I got this spot, and I can go ahead and cut my paper towels, and then I can also take aluminum foil right against that saw blade. Look at that, a nice clean cut. I think this thing turned out amazing, and decorate it with a little on top, and look at this. It actually turned out perfect. I love it. Helps clean up some space and put it in the back and on the side of the fridge where I didn't have anything in the first place. I hope this inspired you to build your own side fridge storage area.
I have an area of my house that has this open desk area, which I wanted to cover up a little bit. I ran to the hardware store and found pieces of 1x3-inch, 8-foot long boards. I determined that I wanted the width of my partition wall to be 24 inches total, more or less. I wanted 7-inch shelves in between the different partition areas. I cut 7-inch pieces of wood so that I could use these for my shelves. Those were done. I laid down my 8-foot long pieces and placed my shelving pieces in between them, spaced out the way that I thought would be appealing. Once I had my shelf pieces where I wanted them, I secured these into place using a nail gun. I placed the shelves in different areas because I wanted it to have some visual interest, with symmetry on the right and left sides, but a little bit different in the center. I then measured the top and bottom of my partition wall using the boards right in place so that I knew that I would have the exact measurement. I marked this, cut it, and then secured it again with a nail gun. In under an hour, I created this little structure. I lifted it up and moved it into place inside the house. At this point, you could choose to secure yours if you know you want it there permanently. You can also choose to stain yours, and it would look great in a darker color or even paint it in black if it goes with your decor. I placed a few items onto my little shelves, and here's how it turned out. It did a great job of camouflaging the messiness of my desk and just kind of kept that area separate. I have this small closet in the hallway that I thought would be fun to leave as an open space rather than enclosing it with a really tight, cramped door. I went to Lowe's and purchased several long pieces of 1x2s. Once I got these home, I stained them to the color of my choice. I made sure to stain the front and also the sides. My closet is about 16.5 inches in depth, so I cut my pieces down to 16 inches. Once they were cut, I made sure to stain the fronts of them as well, since these would be visible from the hallway once the pieces were installed. Starting from the top of my closet, I attached the wood pieces using a nail gun. I simply added a 1x2 piece with the flat edge down, then used another piece as a spacer and installed the second piece underneath. I repeated this process going down along the closet wall. I did make sure to stop a few times just to make sure that everything was level and that I hadn't gotten crooked along the way. Once I was done with that side, it was time to start on the other wall. Of course, you want to make sure that the wooden pieces are lining up on both sides so that any future shelving doesn't come out crooked. I simply used a wood board and lined a level up along it to make sure that it was level. Once that was done, I installed my wood pieces along that side wall as well. The next step was to add my shelving. I purchased 3/4 inch wood and stained this to match. I cut it to the exact dimensions I needed for my closet. Now I was able to slide the shelving in place. The great thing about this is I can easily move the shelving to whatever height I need. There's so many different options because I can use any single one of these side wood pieces as a different resting place for my shelf. I love the way this open closet looks, and the repositionable shelving makes it really practical and functional.
I found this old wooden box at a thrift store and I knew it had potential. First, I gave it a good sanding to smooth out the surface. Then we flipped it upside down and measured 1.5 inches in from each corner. That's where we drilled holes, just slightly smaller than the rope we were using. Next, we measured out the length of rope we wanted and then doubled it so that it was one long strand that would go from the front to back holes on each side. We threaded each end through the holes and tied a secure knot underneath to keep the box suspended and sturdy. Once the rope was in place, I gave the box a rich stain to bring out the wood's natural beauty. After it dried, we hung it on the wall using nails, letting the rope do the work to hold it up. And just like that, this simple thrift store find became a stylish, space-saving hanging table, perfect for a cozy reading nook, a bedside shelf, or even a plant stand.